My name's Jason, I'm 38, and up until 3 days ago, I thought I had a pretty solid grip on my life. I co-own a mid-sized tech firm with 2 college friends. I've been married for 6 years to a woman I was sure was my best friend, and I genuinely believed I was building a future that mattered, with someone who actually cared if I was part of it. We didn't have kids yet, though her parents kept hinting, "You're not getting any younger," her mother would say while dishing out mashed potatoes with that tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. I used to laugh it off. I thought they just wanted to be involved. I thought a lot of things. The night everything shifted, it started with something stupid, just a dinner. Her family hosts one of these big, semi-formal gatherings every couple of months. Her mom sets the table like it's a wedding reception, with those gold-rimmed plates and floral centerpieces that make the whole room smell like a perfume aisle. They always asked me to help with the setup, and I always said yes. Honestly, I didn't mind. I liked being part of something that felt warm. Even if half the time her cousins barely looked up from their phones and her uncles treated me like some stray her dad accidentally let in the house. I was pouring drinks in the kitchen, laughing to myself because her dad had just handed me this massive bottle and said, "Be generous with the pours. It's the only way to make it through one of these nights." I had just stepped out back to grab more ice from the cooler when I heard voices through the screen door. Her Uncle Paul, loud, always had something to say, was talking to someone inside. She could have done so much better. I mean, Jason's fine, but come on. He's just a temporary step. Then came my wife's voice. Steady. Cold. Not for long. Once the transfer's final, I'm gone, and I'm taking half his company with me. At first, I thought I misheard. I stood there, holding a bag of half-melted ice, feeling the blood drain from my face like someone had pulled a plug. I waited, hoping maybe she'd laugh. Say she was joking. Say something, anything, to make it not real. But she didn't. Just silence. Then the clinking of glasses and a shuffle as someone moved away from the door. I walked back and like nothing happened. Smiled. Served drinks. Chatted about the weather. I handed her cousin a glass of Chardonnay with a grin that probably looked a little too forced. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped a bottle of soda. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. That was the part that hit me the hardest. The way she kept acting like everything was fine. Like I was too dumb or too trusting to catch on. I spent the rest of the evening on autopilot, smiling when someone made a joke, laughing too loudly when her dad told a story I'd already heard a dozen times. She touched my shoulder at one point. I almost flinched, but I didn't let it show. I just nodded, kissed her temple like always, and told her dinner was amazing. She beamed at me. That fake, polished beam she used when clients were around. That's when it clicked. Maybe it had always been fake. After everyone left, I did the dishes. I needed the distraction. She went upstairs to take a quick bath and asked if I could bring her phone charger. I said sure. I walked into our bedroom 10 minutes later and saw her phone, face up, lit with a new message from a contact saved under Marcy. It was a man. I knew it instantly. I didn't even have to read the whole thread, just the first few lines. Can't believe he still doesn't suspect. Just 2 more days and we're clear. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't say a word. I just left the charger on the nightstand like nothing happened. Then I went to the guest room, shut the door, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. My heart didn't break, it boiled. The next morning, she kissed my cheek like usual, told me she had a meeting in the city and would be back late. I nodded, watched her walk out the door in that blazer she always wore when she wanted to impress someone. The moment she left, I got to work. Over the past 6 years, I'd quietly built safeguards into everything. Backups. Agreements. Even the shares in the company were structured in a way that gave me final say over any transfer, but she didn't know that. She thought she could slide in, cozy up to my business partners, and walk away with half the equity and a smug little grin. That morning, I called my lawyer, then my accountant, then my co-founders. I laid it all out, piece by piece. I expected them to be shocked, furious, but they weren't. They looked tired. One of them, Ryan, just sighed and said, "Honestly, man, we were waiting for you to see it." She's been playing the long game. That night, she came home humming. Literally humming. Walked in with a box of takeout like she didn't just got me 24 hours earlier. "You're not mad I was out so late, are you?" she asked, peeking into the living room with those wide, fake innocent eyes. "Of course not," I said. "I trust you." And I almost laughed at how smoothly the lie came out. The next 2 days passed like a slow-motion montage. She kept up appearances, called me babe, asked if I wanted to plan a trip for spring, even offered to cook. I said yes to everything. I played my part, smiled, nodded, agreed. Then the third morning hit. I was in my office when it started. My phone lit up, once, then again, then nonstop. Calls from her mom, from her uncle, from numbers I didn't recognize. Emails, texts, notifications, one right after the other. Her name popped up on my screen 6 times before I finally picked up. She was crying, screaming, "How could you? Jason, what did you do?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. That's when I heard the knock at the front door. Heavy, rapid, then another, and another. The world was finally catching up to her. I didn't answer the door right away. I let the knocking continue until it turned into pounding, like whoever was out there was afraid I'd vanish if they didn't break the door down. But I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted her to wait. I wanted her to sit in that silence and wonder, because for the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to keep the peace. I was the one holding the cards. Eventually, I walked to the door, slowly, like I had all the time in the world. When I opened it, I found her standing there in yesterday's clothes, makeup smudged, hair tangled. She looked like she hadn't slept. Good. Her uncle was behind her, red-faced and seething like someone had just insulted his entire bloodline. "Jason," she started, her voice trembling. "Can we please talk?" I leaned against the doorframe and gave her the same polite, unreadable look she'd used on me for years. "Of course," I said. "Would you like to come in? Or are you just here to collect what's left?" Her uncle stepped forward, all bluster. "You've made a huge mistake, son. You're not thinking clearly. This is overreacting." I tilted my head. "Interesting. Because I'm pretty sure plotting to defraud your spouse and steal his company is the real overreaction. But hey, I'm not the legal expert." She stepped between us. "Jason, please. I didn't mean. Look, I wasn't going to go through with it, okay? It was just talk." I didn't even blink. "Then I assume you won't mind if I send the audio to my lawyer." Her face went pale. Because here's what she didn't know. After that dinner, after I heard what she said out on the patio, I didn't just walk back in and play the part. I planted a small recording device in the living room the next day, just in case. And guess what? She did talk. She talked a lot. With her uncle, with her friend Marcy, with herself, even, muttering while checking her bank app, reading off numbers, talking about timelines and percentages and my company's shares like she already owned them. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said then, tears sliding down her cheeks like they were supposed to wash everything clean. "It got out of hand. I thought maybe I deserved something too." "You did," I replied, and my voice was calm. Too calm, like the still water before a storm. "You deserved honesty. You deserved respect. But you wanted control. You wanted power. So you faked love. You faked us." Her uncle tried again. "You'll ruin her if you go public with this. Do you really want that on your conscience?" I smiled, not out of joy, but because I finally understood something. These people didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a stepping stone, a transaction, a means to their comfort. And now that the latter was gone, they were panicking. "I'm not going public," I said. "That would be petty. I'm just protecting what's mine." Then I handed her a folder, neatly organized, labeled. Everything she'd tried to move, every bank detail, every piece of property with my name still attached, every sneaky little attempt to shift money into joint accounts and siphon it off, was there. And beside that folder was another. This one labeled, "Notice of Separation." She opened it with shaking fingers. This isn't fair. You're just throwing everything away." I looked at her then, really looked at her. For the first time in a long time, I saw her clearly, not as the girl I fell in love with, not as the woman I married, but as the stranger she'd slowly become. "No," I said. "You threw it away. I'm just taking out the trash." She cried harder, begging now, swearing she'd change, that it was all a mistake. Her uncle watched with crossed arms, tight-lipped, probably calculating what this meant for his own finances, since he'd clearly tied some strings to her schemes. I didn't care. I told her I'd be staying at a hotel for a while. The house was still mine legally. I'd give her a few days to get her things and go. But if she touched anything that didn't belong to her, or if she even breathed near my business again, my lawyer would bury her in so much legal mud, she'd need a snorkel to breathe. She left eventually, still crying. Her uncle tried to slam the door on his way out. I didn't flinch. The next few days were quiet, unnervingly so. Her call stopped. The text slowed, then stopped entirely. She must have realized the damage was done, that there was nothing left to salvage. I thought that would be the end of it, until her mother called me. That call changed everything. She didn't ask how I was, didn't apologize, didn't even try to defend her daughter. Instead, she said, "You've made your point, Jason. Now be a man and fix this." I stared at the phone in disbelief, then let out a short, bitter laugh. "Fix what exactly?" "Our family," she snapped. "You think money means you can just walk away? That girl gave you 6 years of her life. She made you look good. You owe her." That's when something inside me broke, and not in a sad way. In a final way, like something that had been rusted shut for years had finally snapped open. Because she was right. My wife had made me look good, by pretending to love me, by smiling on cue, by saying all the right things while stabbing me in the back. And now, when it all came crashing down, her family thought I owed them. I didn't respond. I just ended the call. Because it wasn't over. Not yet. It was strange how quickly the silence became comfortable. The first morning I woke up alone in the house again, truly alone. I expected to feel hollow. Or angry. Maybe both. But instead, I felt clear. Like my mind had been running underwater for months, maybe years, and I'd finally broken the surface. I sat on the back porch with a cup of coffee, looking out at the same yard where I'd once planned to build a deck for her dream garden. Funny, she never planted a single thing. Not even a tomato. But she talked about it a lot. Said it would be our project. Another thing on a long list of empty promises. It wasn't just the betrayal that got to me. It was the performance. The precision of it. How methodically she'd built the illusion. How naturally her family had joined the cast, like this had been the plan all along. And maybe it had. That thought sat with me longer than I expected. I went to the office that afternoon, have to escape the silence, have to ground myself in something that hadn't turned on me. My business partners, Ryan and Chris, greeted me with the cautious sympathy of two men who didn't want to say the wrong thing but needed me to know they had my back. Chris, ever the quiet one, just clapped my shoulder and said, "Whatever you need." Ryan pulled me aside. "She called me. You know." I raised an eyebrow. "When?" "Yesterday. She said she wanted to clear the air. Said she was worried you'd do something extreme." I scoffed. Extreme would have been draining the accounts and flying to Costa Rica. I'm not interested in revenge for the sake of it. Ryan nodded, but he looked uncomfortable. She also asked if we could reconsider the share agreement. That stopped me. She what? She asked if there was any chance we could undo the share lock you put in last quarter. Said it was unfair. Said you'd manipulated her. I laughed, low and dry. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. The moment her first plan failed, she pivoted. No apology. No ownership. Just a new angle. A new manipulation. Her favorite game. She forgets, I said quietly, that she never helped build this place. She just decorated it. Ryan didn't say anything to that. He didn't need to. Later that evening, I got a text from her. No words, just a photo of the guest room, packed with her luggage. A single line followed. "I'm out. I left your key on the counter. Hope you're happy." There was no punctuation. No goodbye. No real closure. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Not because it hurt, but because of what it didn't say. No remorse. No acknowledgement. "No, I'm sorry I betrayed you." Just another half-played attempt at guilt. Another unfinished performance. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured myself a drink, something dark and expensive I'd been saving for a celebration. I figured freedom qualified. That night, I started combing through everything she'd touched. Every email, every account, every file. I made copies. Screenshots. Backups. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. Because people like her don't just disappear. They pivot. They resurface. And when they do, they come back with lawyers. And sure enough, a week later, I got a notice in the mail. She was contesting the separation agreement. She claimed coercion. Emotional manipulation. She said I controlled the finances and isolated her from family decisions. I almost laughed. She'd never let me pick the color of the curtains without consulting her mother. But this wasn't about truth. It was about pressure. It was about painting herself as the victim before the full story could come out. Because if she controlled the narrative, she could still win. That's when I made the decision. I called my lawyer and told him to greenlight the release of the evidence. The recordings. The emails. The photos. All of it. But not to the public. Not yet. Just to her attorney. Let them hear what I heard on that patio. Let them read the messages. Let them see the transfer attempts. Let them decide if they really wanted to drag this into court. I figured it would buy silence. Instead, it bought something better. Panic. The next morning, I got a call not from her, not from her lawyer, but from her mother. Again, this time, her voice was shaky. Not angry, not smug, just small. "Jason, sweetheart," she said, in that careful tone people use when they think they're being clever, "I think we've all let this get a bit out of hand. Don't you?" I didn't say anything. She continued, a bit faster now. "Your wife, she's very upset. I think she regrets everything. And we all know how hard it can be when emotions are high. Maybe you could come over. We could talk this through. As a family." Family. That word. Again. I almost said yes. Almost. But then I remembered the way her daughter looked me in the eye the night she promised forever, while already drafting a plan to steal what I built. I remembered the way her uncle laughed on that patio. The way her mother sat across from me all these years, pretending she didn't see the cracks she helped create. So instead, I said, "You should tell your daughter to sign the paperwork." A pause. Then, brittle silence. "And if she doesn't?" her mother asked. I smiled. "Then I'll show the world who she really is." And that's where it stands. For now. Because what I haven't told them, what they don't know, is that the recordings aren't the only card I'm holding. There's more. Things they really don't want to see the light of day. Financial things. Legal things. Things that would make every bridge they've ever leaned on burn to ash. But I haven't decided yet. Because I want them to sweat. I waited exactly 3 days after that phone call. 3 days of silence from her mother, the lawyers. No updates. No threats. Not even the fake friendly check-ins they'd been using to try and butter me up. I knew exactly what that meant. They were scrambling. Probably trying to dig up dirt on me, or twist some narrative to make me look like the villain. It was too quiet, too still. Like the pause before an earthquake. I spent those 3 days preparing. I wasn't angry anymore. That part had burned out. What I felt now was focus. Cold, steady focus. Because it was no longer about heartbreak. It was about dignity. And making sure she didn't get to rewrite the story of our life into some tragic tale of how she was mistreated and misunderstood. She wanted a clean exit. One where I handed over half of everything I'd built and walked away looking like the bitter ex-husband. She almost got it, too. If I hadn't stepped out to get ice that night, if I'd just poured the drinks a minute slower, I might have smiled through the entire dinner, toasted to our future, and handed her the keys to my kingdom. But life has a way of protecting those who pay attention. And I was finally paying attention. On the 4th morning, I met with my lawyer one last time. We finalized everything. All the documents. All the evidence. And most importantly, the countermotion. One that would not only dissolve her claims to my company, but leave her financially exposed for attempted fraud. We didn't use that word lightly. We had proof. Wire transfer requests, audio admissions, shared plans with third parties. Her friend, Marcy, had even unknowingly helped us. She'd sent messages referencing the timeline, the plan, the payout. My lawyer asked, "You sure you want to go through with this? Once this is filed, it's not just going to be about money. It's going to get public. Ugly." I looked him in the eye. Good. Let them all see. And so we filed. The news didn't take long to reach her. Within hours, I got a text. Just 2 words, "You monster." I didn't reply. An hour later, another. "You said you wouldn't go public. You promised." I hadn't. I never promised anything. I had only said I wouldn't initially. But things change when someone decides to torch your life and expects you to hand them a fire extinguisher. The next day, her attorney called mine. There was panic in his voice. They didn't want this in court. They didn't want it in the papers. They didn't want it anywhere. Apparently, her mother was already getting calls from her country club friends. Rumors had started swirling. Someone had leaked the phrase, "attempted corporate fraud within marriage." I never said a word to the press. But funny thing about lawyers, sometimes they talk when they think it'll help their client. Suddenly, they were willing to settle. They offered to drop all claims. She'd give up any rights to the business. She'd leave the house. She'd sign the NDA. No fuss, no fight. But it was too late. So I said no. I countered with something stronger. "You will publicly retract your statements. You will apologize in writing. And you will return every cent you funneled into that hidden account." Her lawyer pushed back. Said it was excessive. I sent over the recording of her uncle discussing, pulling a fast one before the fool figures it out. They caved within a day. I met her for the last time at a neutral conference room downtown. No lawyers present. Just us, a mediator, and a thick folder of documents on the table between us. She looked different, tired, older. Not physically, but in the way people look when they've spent too long lying to themselves. Her voice was small when she spoke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I said nothing. I thought if I just had some control, I'd feel safe. You always had everything. The respect, the business, the friends. You had me, I said. My voice didn't shake. You just didn't want me. You wanted what I came with. She stared at her hands, her fingers picking at a hangnail until it bled. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't think you'd ever leave. I thought I'd be stuck. That's what broke me, not out of sympathy, but clarity. She had been stuck, not with me, but in her own bitterness. Her jealousy. She'd let it rot her from the inside out. And when she couldn't build her own thing, she tried to steal mine. We signed the papers. No hugs, no tears, just ink and silence. She took one last look at me before she walked out. I hope you find someone who sees you for you, she said. I watched her go. Then I slid the folder into my briefcase, stood up, and walked out into the sunlight. It wasn't over, though, because she'd still done damage. Not just to me, but to my reputation. Some people had heard her side first, had believed it. So I made one last move, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. I wrote a statement, not a press release, not a tell-all, just a clear, firm message. In light of recent events involving my separation, I want to clarify that any claims made against my integrity or business practices are categorically false. Evidence has been reviewed by legal professionals, and formal agreements have been reached. I believe in transparency, respect, and accountability, and I will continue to uphold those values in my personal and professional life. It went out to investors, partners, clients. The support I got back was overwhelming. People who had been quiet before started reaching out, sharing their own stories, apologizing for doubting me, standing by me. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it planted something again, trust, the kind I could build on. The house is mine now. Empty, yes, but it feels cleaner. Like the walls themselves are finally breathing again. The company is doing better than ever. Ryan and Chris promoted me to CEO, not because of the drama, but because I'd proven I could weather a storm. And as for her, last I heard, she moved in with her mother. She tried to start a consulting business, but couldn't get clients. People talk, especially when there are receipts. I didn't destroy her. I didn't have to. I just showed the world who she really was. And then I let her fall, not out of malice, but because some people only learn when the floor they thought would always be there finally gives out beneath them. So no, I didn't get the love story I thought I was living in. But I got something better. I got out, with my name intact, with my business stronger, with my future mine again. And I'll take that ending, quiet, clean, earned, over any fairy tale. Any day.